pleasant day to everyone and welcome back to our science class. So for today's lesson, we are now in lesson 2 and this is teacher and again your science teacher. And for this topic, we will be talking about the food chains versus the food webs. Food chains and food webs. So, we will review first our previous topic. Last time we talked about the type of ecosystems. Okay, we have what we call the terrestrial ecosystem. So under it, we have the forest ecosystem, we have the desert, and we have the grasslands, which animals live or which living things interacts. We have also what we called aquatic ecosystem or the water. It involves water. So the first is we have pond. So it can be man-made or natural ponds. We have also oceans wherein living things in under the water lives. And we have also swamp. Okay. So this time, we will be focusing first in the food chain. What do you mean by food chain? When you say food chain, a food chain is the path by which energy passes from one living thing to another. So when you say chain, so it's an energy passes from one living thing to another. So plants get energy from the sun so that the plants will live, and also the grasshopper will eat the plants, the frog will eat the grasshopper, and the hawk will eat the frog. So that is a food chain. So what's in a food chain? Food chain includes the producers. First is the producers. Second, we have the consumers. Third, we have the decomposers. So these three compose our food chain. So first, we will be talking about the producer. So this one, producer, somewhat it's a plant. Okay, it's a plant. So when we say producer, they are green plants and they are the world's food producer, okay? And also they use energy from the sun to make food. So sunlight produces glucose and other sugar in the process of photosynthesis. So leaves are green because they contain the chlorophyll, meaning that's the green pigment of the leaf. So in all green plants, okay, which is responsible for absorbing the light to provide energy from the photosynthesis for the plants to grow. Okay, so the producer are on the bottom of the food chain. Okay, bottom, or they are the first in the line, the producer, because they produce or they give food to living things. Okay, the second one, the formation of food chain, is the consumer. When we say consumer, they hunt, they gather, and they store food because they cannot make their own food. Okay, unlike the producer, they make their own food through the help of the sunlight. But for the consumer, they cannot make their own food. So that's why they are very dependent to the producer, because producer is the one that consumer eat. Okay, so in this food chain, we have the primary consumer. Primary consumer is the grasshopper example. Okay, grasshopper is the primary consumer. So when you say primary, it's the first. So when you say primary consumer, it's a plant-eating organism. So technically, primary consumer is herbivore. Okay, they are the animals or insects who only eat plant. Okay, primary consumer. Because since our producer is plant, so of course our primary consumer is the plant eaters, or what we call the herbivore. The second in the line is we have the secondary consumer. Okay, when you say secondary, meaning the second consumer. So this frog will eat the grasshopper. So secondary consumer, any organisms that consumes or feeds largely on a primary consumers. So technically, the second consumer is the one who consume, or the one who will eat the primary consumer. Okay, which is the grasshopper. So frog is a secondary consumer. The third, or what we call the tertiary consumer. So when we say tertiary, meaning it's the third consumer. So the snake will eat the frog. Okay, so tertiary consumers, so they are the organisms that consumes or feeds largely on the primary and secondary consumers. So it means that they are like carnivores. So, okay, some of these are carnivores consumer. Okay, and we have what we call the final consumer. Okay, the last one. We have the primary consumer, secondary, tertiary, and we have the final consumer. Final consumer is the last point in a distributions of the channel. Okay, that is the consumer. So there are three types of consumers. So these are the herbivores. So mainly herbivores are the primary consumers, and we have the carnivores. Okay, and we have also the omnivores. So these are the three types of consumers. Okay, lastly we have decomposer. Okay, decomposer is the last who composed our food chain. Okay, when we say decomposer, these are fungi or bacteria. Okay, these organisms, they break down dead or decaying organisms. So when this final consumer will die, so technically the dead bodies will decay, so the fungi or the decomposer will help. So the dead body will return into the soil. Now let's have the food web. Food web. What do you mean by food web? So food web is a series of organisms related by predator, prey, and consumer resource interactions. Okay, when we say food web, so it's a series of food chain. Okay, so food chain is just one line, but food web, okay, it composed like, see, it's like from sun to producer, from the primary consumer. Okay, let's have this one. The grasshopper will be eaten by the weasel, the secondary consumer, and then the weasel will be eaten by the owl, which is the tertiary consumer. Or also the grasshopper will be eaten by the hook. Okay, so food web is a series of food chains or several food chains that link together. School food web. So in our food web, we have predator and we have prey. So predator, those are the animals that captures and eats other animals. Okay? Again, predator is the animals that captures and eat another animals. Prey is the animals that is captured and eaten. Prey is the animals that captured and eaten. So prey is the food of the predator. Okay, let's have this one. We have rabbit. Rabbit is a prey. Okay. And then snake. We have snake. Snake is a predator. When you say predator, so the snake will eat the rabbit. So meaning rabbit is prey and snake is a predator. Next is we have the hook. So this animal will eat our snake. So meaning the snake is a prey of a hook, and then the hook is also a predator. So this time let's have this one. So how many food chains can you make from this food web? Again, when you say food web, it's a series of food chains. So let's have this one. So from here I write 4 food chain. So we have, so from this diagram, so technically the plant is our producer, okay, because this plant produce the food of the rabbit and the rat. Alright, so let's start. Okay, plant. Our producer is the plant. Next to that, the rabbit will eat the plant. So that is our primary consumer. So from this producer, the rabbit will eat the plant. Next to the rabbit is we have the secondary consumer, which is the hook. Okay, hook, which is means, okay, this is our secondary consumer. So this is the last, right? So let's go to number 2. Again, plant is our producer. After that, okay, we have rat. Okay, rat, and then the hook. Rat, and then the hook. For number 3, again, we have plant, and then rat, and then the rat will be eaten by the snake, and the snake will be eaten by the hook, which is our tertiary consumer. Okay, 4th, again, we have plant, and we have rabbit, we have snake, and then we have the tertiary consumer, which is the hook. It's very simple, right? So just follow the arrow. So this would be your worksheet for today. Okay, for part 1, please study the food web and then note the chain. Next, you have to record the observation in the table below. So as what we did in the previous slide, so you will do also like this. So we have water lettuce as our producer. Then we have grasshopper, we have hook, we have snake, and we have fish. Okay, just write the producer name and then primary consumer, secondary consumer, and we have the tertiary consumer. So for the part 2, we have to answer the question below and choose the correct answer in the word bank. We have aquatic plant, we have snake, we have bird, we have grasshopper, we have snake, and we have fish. So what is the name of the producer in the food web diagram? Number 2, what are the consumers in the food web diagram? So we have 4 answer. And lastly, we have what is the top consumer of the food web? When you say top, the last or the tertiary consumer. So this is the end of our class for today, and I hope to see you next time, your next video. Bye bye.
And I'll go